G'day Space Engineers and welcome to another episode of Dronely, where I explain exactly what you just saw in more detail, for the fact that I'm sure everyone's curious why one of them failed, one of them worked, the elevator, why everything takes so long, and more. Before we get to that, the drone drill we did trigger in the last episode has finished its job. As we go on down here, it just drills out that plate sort of formation, and it has gotten every single little bit of silver that we can possibly see, except this little spot here that I could see of earlier just off camera. I did do a very quick check, but that's all ready to go. And make sure you check out the description below for the link to this blueprint so you can download it, use it yourself. Make sure that you set this sorter to whatever ore you're specifically going to be drilling out, because this mod actually needs to delete any stone so it can then fill up your cargo container, push out over to the connector, and actually trigger a timer and an event controller in its programming to actually start pushing out the pistons to do its job that you just saw there. So these aren't exactly necessary. Just make sure you have a sorter connected to a connector on the other side of it, and just have that sorter set to drain all the stone out of this grid, and have that connector set to eject all. So it will just start dropping out all of that stone. Probably set it over here somewhere in the back so it will actually go away from the hole, and the drills won't constantly pick up anything stone that would be dropped into the hole, etc. So just keep that in mind. That is all good. The AI itself, make sure when you do trigger it with that auto drone landing with the GPS placed on the surface of the planet, right in the middle of that white ore patch, just on the surface, nice and easy. So have that auto drone landing timer to start when it gets to that GPS, and it will be nice and ready, waiting for you to get that drone on there before it starts. Press the button to start it off. You've got the trigger, the side pistons button, as well as a full reset that will allow it to get into the position it is right now, no matter what stage it is in the process of drilling out, etc. So I have had a few comments in the last videos saying, why don't you just get the beacon on your drone drill connected to the AI recorder drone and all that sorts of stuff. And yes, it can be tied into it, but the waypoints would still need to be placed accordingly, specifically to avoid anything that may be in the way from one point to another GPS, if that, or waypoint, if that makes sense. I could have two separate designs, one going out one tunnel, clearing it and going to the drill, and the other one going out the right side and then clearing it and going to another drill, for two separate sides of the worlds. But I'd rather have just one, set them up off camera and tell you what I've done, etc. So with all that being said, let's get stuck into the first thing. So obviously we'll start with the space elevator. It takes the longest, and I'm just going to trigger this one up with my character nice and easy, and I can show you on a separate grid how it all kind of works. So I'll just press button 1, which triggers a go up timer, which then starts some other things in the background that will delay the altitude and the speed event controllers. So this one here is able to be turned on once it is a separate grid itself. It's not a stationary grid when this gets turned on. Make sure that happens, and I've just got it to go when I've triggered that go up timer, I've got it to start this timer specifically, which will tell that event controller to turn on after 3 seconds of disconnection, and it's going up, etc. Same thing on the way down, for the fact that any event controller looking at your altitude or your speed will need to be turned on only after its disconnection from a static grid. Hope that makes sense, and that's how I've got this all going. When it gets to the top, I've got this sensor set at about like 12.5 meters, that when it sees a grid, it'll trigger the tower stop timer, which just tells it to turn off the wheels to, that's how it pretty much goes up, set to 30 meters a second up and 30 meters a second down. Any more than that, I've got it to tell it to slow down and only stay at 30 meters a second, for the fact that it's a lot more stable. The tower itself, or the pillar, doesn't get damaged and all that sorts of stuff, as well as turning the handbrake on, turning the repair welders, which I've just got some steel plates and just some really simple resources in a sneaky cargo container in here somewhere, because I've got the control seat down the bottom. It's clipping the solar panels. It makes the camera go a little hunky-dory. But as it gets to the top, as I said, it just triggers that timer. On its way down, it triggers the emergency stop, which opens the parachutes, whether or not they are actually used, for the fact that I'm rather high up when this elevator is on the surface of the planet, and the atmosphere isn't exactly as high as it should be for when those parachutes are even able to open up. So that's just the way it works. Goes up, turns all the stuff off. Next page is completely blank, so that's just all of the stuff, things and stuff. Yes, that's just the way I explained it. Obviously, going up, it just disconnects, turns the wheels on, does all this sorts of stuff, turns the right sensor on, and starts that auto connect, so it can not have any magnetism on the connector itself as it leaves the surface, or as it leaves my space hub at the top. Obviously, it turns the welders on and starts that up slow delayed timer as well. Here we have, there is the actual docking sequence itself. I've just got some tires just up the top here. Once that sensor starts slowing it down, it actually does stop it just beforehand, and that works out absolutely perfectly fine. After a while, it just gets it to connect up. Once these connectors are ready to connect with an event controller, they just have a 10-second timer to just lock up nice and easy. And then on top of it, we obviously have the docking connectors themselves. So there's the elevator nicely and connected. And we've got these connectors up the top here, as we've got just a space hub mid connector. That's just what I've named them, nice and easy. So let's pop down to below, and I thought you'd be quite interested in how that all docks up with the updated version that I've been tinkering with just earlier on this morning, nice and easy. So yes, now we'll actually go to the next drone. Alright, now we've got that elevator all out of the way, I want to get stuck into why those drones you saw at the start of the video, some actually worked, some did not. Why? All that sorts of stuff, and I'm going to start with the top left video, the AI basic. So let's go ahead and just press this button, nice and easy. It's going to trigger on up. I have absolutely lost it. Alright, after catching up with this with my character, let's get into how it works and why this one actually failed. You see, when it goes to the outside of the space hub up the top, it goes to the outer, it goes above the docking connector itself, and if I go into the AI basics or the AI moves, there is no ability to tell this drone to go into the down orientation in any way, shape or form, unlike the remote block, which does. So let's go down and we'll trigger that one up next while this still continues on. So next up is the AI recorder, and this one works a little differently. So let's trigger this one up ASAP, and I'll lock to my character without moving so it will follow it the whole way, and I don't actually lose it this time. There we go, we're at 100, so I can start moving now. So the way this one actually works is that once it actually uses the waypoint I've actually placed with my character in control of the drone, it's looking at a reference beacon I have just below the docking connector of the space base. It just needs to be on the grid itself, And this is what it's referencing in terms of what orientation it needs to go when it hits those GPSs with how you have placed them previously. So the way and the orientation in the world, how I place these 3 waypoints with this reference beacon, it will actually remember them to be used from then on. Where without the reference beacon, it then acts like that AI basic and just starts flying straight down, nose first, into the connector and just does not work whatsoever. So without this beacon and that reference point, this drone with its recording functions will not work. So make sure that's all good. So let's move on to the next one and explain how it all works with that remote control. So let's just pop our character right down here and let's just trigger this one up nice and easy. Last of all, this one is the slowest out of all of the drones, and that's for the fact that it's a lot stranger, for the fact that it wants to slow itself down when it gets closer and closer to the GPS that it's placed first, which is the same ones where the waypoints and where the AI basic block use. It's just the outer, the inner above the connector and down on the connector itself. So that's the one I'm using right here. It goes outer, above, and straight down, but you notice that I've got the down functionality on this remote control, which then allows it to obviously get to that GPS, remember how it was oriented when I placed that GPS when I was in control of that drone, and then it tells it to go into the down orientation instead of trying to fly nose first in the 0 gravity. It's really quite strange. Obviously, there's no P gravity that it can then latch onto and will need to then be working out. So let's flick on up all the way to the top and see if we can beat all the drones to the connector itself. So there's one that's actually connected up, and I think I did that. Yep, that's all right. So this is the one that actually failed with the AI basic for the fact that it has no ability of that down function, and neither with the reference beacon itself. So you can see there's no down function and there's absolutely no reference beacon that I can place in this to work. So let's get rid of that one and let's get the next drone going. If I can remember where I've placed these GPSs, we shall see the next one follow up extremely shortly. Oh, here it is here. So this is the AI recorder. Yep. And this one actually swings quite wide as it goes to the next waypoint. So there it is right there. It went into the down orientation because of that reference beacon that I have placed just over here. Nice and easy. So this is actually 2 separated grids only connected via a connector. And I've gone into the info of this and I've converted it to a station for the fact that this grid was not moving at all. So if we've got the edge of space GPS here, if I go just above the GPS, it is actually in 0 gravity. If I go just below it, we are in 0.05 gravity, and it skips that in the game functions in itself. It's just the game mechanics. And the whole reason why I've left the space elevator itself just below and in the planetary gravity, even ever so slightly, is so the gravity itself can pull it towards the planet to actually get its speed up and going, instead of having to like shunt it and like push it off towards the planet, which may not be as stable specifically for damaging any blocks of the pillar. That should be just about all on that drone just there, and now we are just waiting on the last remote control drone, which actually does not go in any arc whatsoever out towards the next GPS like that, like the AI basic and the AI recorders do. The remote control block actually makes the drone go directly up alongside the pillar towards the next GPS, which is rather strange. All right, let's move on to the last one once it finally arrives. So let's get rid of this because they're all connected onto this connector right here. There it is there. It's just 2 kilometers away, and it's obviously right next to that pillar itself nice and easy. So it should skirt it nice and safe, as all of these drones have either got precision mode on and collision avoidance off at all times. I may want to do a little bit of testing in the future where I did have the old functionality on my older, smarter cargo drone where I turned the collision avoidance on after a 10-second delay after its trigger. I'm not too sure exactly why I did that, and I'll have to remember why, but let's catch up to this drone and I'll explain why this one actually does and goes a little slower. So you can see I've set these all to 95 meters a second, where if they were set to 100 meters a second, they would be using their bottom thrusters to go up all the time, 100% of the time, where if I've set them to 95, they actually only use the downwards thrusters enough to get to that, and it will not use them 100% of the way. So what's going on with this drone? I have done a little bit of testing off camera, and the only thing different than what you saw at the start of this video was this thruster right here I've added off camera in between. So that could also be causing a bit of problems. Precision mode on. So let's just turn precision mode off on that remote block, as I think that may have a better effect. Yeah, that was the thing causing it problems. So you see how it went nose up? That was because it hit no planetary gravity whatsoever. And then it comes down in the down orientation and then locks up like the rest of them. Absolutely fantastic. I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. I've no idea how long it's going to be going for. Make sure you stay sharp till next time, as always, but make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and check out those blueprints in the description below and like them as well. Share the video and that design with your friends, online, social media, wherever you want to be, as I've been told this channel is extremely underrated and only this amount of people on average are subscribed to my channel that watch my videos. So see if we can change that. Stay sharp till next time, as always. Thanks for watching. See ya.